calling our budget meeting at 4:30 on April 11th to order. And at this time,
We do a pledge or? We have two committee members. Ron Berberbanek, Kaylee Ferguson. Our budget calendar. I included a strategic plan this year. Am I reading all of this or
I did later. I think that's pretty good.
nothing says they have to read it, but are we, let's take a consensus. Are we all in favor of me reading it or shall we?
May I, if I have anything to say, just move on.
I don't know.
Did everybody read the strategic plan?
Yes, I am.
Kathy? Did you read it?
Yeah. Budget message. Shall I read that as well?
You can, you want to read that? I think that. I think that was first, I didn't read.
Okay. So honor roll Mayor Tripp, members of the Mitchell City Council, members of the Budget Advisory Committee, residents of the city of Mitchell. Last year, we faced many unknowns. A new city clerk, newly appointed council members, and just having gone through a pandemic. The residents and the tourism community faced a lot of ups and downs, gas price fluctuations, a new normal revenue streams we hadn't previously anticipated, as well as community development grant from Representative Smith. These funds will no longer be available and will look like a shrinking budget. The city faces a monumental task of finding new revenue streams, new regulations coming from COVID-19, such as Zoom requirements, are now with us for the foreseeable future. Investing American Rescue Act dollars into meeting capabilities has allowed us to keep up with those new state requirements. Allocated from the community development grant was $50,000 for Mitchell Community Hall renovations. Right.
25. I've been playing.
Oh. Okay, I will change that. For the Mitchell Community Hall renovations with donated time and equipment, along with flooring and appliances, it is the hope is a space to provide a quality meeting space as well as generate more revenue. Sadly, it was recently learned the integrity of the building is compromised upstairs. We will need to dedicate time and resources to repair it. Also allocated were facade grants, which have not been utilized. Also, community beautification has been allotted for the purchase of trees downtown. The Mitchell Park revitalization will be a focus for the summer of 23-24. Adjusting allotments may be necessary as inflation keeps rising. As in our strategic planning, training for staff and council will be a primary focus. As an agreement with CIS, our insurance carrier has been mapped out for us. They will provide as many financial resources as possible for mediation with LOC and be of assistance to getting us back on track to focusing on the residents of the community. This will also mean a significant number of resources will be going to our city attorney and training. The city has been tasked with complying with CIS risk management compliance plan. This will take additional efforts and resources to comply with. There will be an increase in the amount of attorney fees needed to comply with the risk plan. In previous years, there has been little training for the council and staff and has been reflected in the compliance plan. Historically, as little as possible has been allocated to the city attorney. This year, this current fiscal year, there has been an increase at the rate of 20% for attorney's fees since 2021. To remedy the amount of council-induced fees, the council implemented council rules of procedure, which allows for the sharing of attorney information and limits each counselor to 1 hour per month of attorney time. Without council approval, Patty Mulvihill from League of Oregon Cities has stated this is a lot for the time for a small town. The council should consider amending the rules of procedure to limit each counselor to half an hour per month. We finished our Bridge Creek Water Line project last April because of the Good Friday flood of 2019 DR 4452. With system updates at the federal level and short staffing at Oregon Emergency Management, it took almost a year to receive the $56,439.50 funds back. We have partnered with Business Oregon for our 25% share cost requirement for the Nelson Street project, which estimates at $1.2 million. This is approximately a savings of $325,000 to the city. The Nelson Street project funds were not received due to the project not having been approved. The budget falls short of the 1.2 million. Continuing with Business Oregon, the search and SIP grants for the water line upgrades, which were allocated but not received. The federal government upgrade did not allow us to submit the search grant. It has now been submitted, and a continuance for the SIP grant has been approved, where we will begin to see plans from HECO Engineering soon. The water lines continue to be a primary focus of the city council and the water board. The city moved to change companies for our annual financial review, which is an increase of 30% with the guarantee the review will be back in a timely manner. Mitchell City Council increased their employee hours to accommodate days off and extra help to maintenance and water master and increased pay. This also provides paid staff to accompany the water master to the springs. An adjustment for the rising gas prices compared to last year will need to be made. The EMS departments are still struggling to obtain volunteers. It has been discussed ways of enticing volunteers such as free water services, but has not been finalized. With property taxes being the main funder of the fire department, it is not enough to keep up with the demands, and the council will look at downsizing until further resources can be acquired. The ambulance department received $5,000 from community development grant to pay tuition for 2 more volunteers to take the required courses. There are plans to work towards a grant writer to help obtain the larger grants the city can't compete for. There is no one specific funding source to pave streets, and the city will make every effort to go after any grants that apply to paving, which are few and far between. As a last resort, the council will look at a bond levy or long-term loans. Reallocating community development funds, which was designed to house fire trucks, to now a portion of those funds allocated for an office at the EMS hall, or rearranging offices for maintenance and water master is highly important as the city focuses on records retention. Ordinance enforcement is struggling due to outdated ordinances, and the council will entertain using a third-party ordinance database, which provides oversight of state and federal laws. In tandem, the city will develop a government website where citizens can find ordinances, agendas, and minutes. Housekeeping on the budget itself has been done through the historical data actuals. There will be a slight difference in the previous budgets presented to reflect the correct amounts. The LGIP in fiscal year 22-23 was not an actual fund. It was created due to the budget committee's lack of understanding the way the city bank's accounts were held. Therefore, an LGIP fund detail sheet will not be presented this year, as the city council has taken some budgeting classes and understanding of budget process is better understood. The cemetery is in desperate need of updating records. The clerk has started this process, and in doing so, there are several unmarked graves. For people to visit their loved ones, it is suggested to purchase inexpensive grave markers for those that do not have markers. This will also assist in updating records. Also, I suggest an increase of fees for plots. The city loses money every time a plot is sold and used. It is the responsibility of the city to maintain the cemetery, which requires paid staff and supplies. An investment into curb appeal may attract new investors. It is my strong recommendation that the city changes the 10% funding of property taxes to the EMS associations until the departments are fully funded and in compliance, as we need every resource to get where we need to be to keep our insurance. It is also my recommendation that you fund the city clerk, who functions as the city administrator, fully at 40 hours a week. The city cannot make necessary strides without a full-time employee. Respectfully submitted, Krista Miller, city clerk. Wait, on the first page? It was what?
Midway down the summer of 2034, 24.
Well, you know, 20, 23, 24. Thank you. Yeah, prices, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. On the last page, it says reallocating community development funds, which was designed to help fire trucks. Now, a portion of those funds allocated for offset the impact cost. Approved by council yet.
This is, you're looking to the next year. So these are my recommendations. You don't have to take them. We're gonna read line by line. General fund. Administration. Available cash on hand, 23,542. Interest, 1,800. LGIP revenue sharing, 7,000. Intergovernmental state taxes, marijuana, cigarettes, alcohol, 4,000. Fees and fines, 300. Community hall, 300. Justice court rental, 1,200. Transfer in from tourism, 6,000. And the FEMA, 3,500 for Cat Z. Records request, $127. Total expenditure or total revenue, 47,769. I just want to stop really quick and say I had a hard time doing this budget because you guys are lacking the resources.
City council. Isn't this her?
Hello? Luana?
Hello? Oh. Hold on. I'm sorry. Did you want me to mute it, I guess?
On your end, yes, please.
So it goes back to the revenue stuff. I mean, I think we've known this for a while, but the more we separate out funds, the more you can see there just really isn't any revenue. And so I had a really hard time trying to figure out, do you pay people or do you buy supplies and not have staff for those supplies? Okay. Allocated in the general fund. Clerk, 16,688, labor, maintenance to 1,260, maintenance, 9,360, employment taxes, 2,700, employment expenses, 3,000. FTE of 1, bonds and insurance, 2,885, office supplies, telephone membership fees, 3,000. Electric power, 3,600. Financial review, budget bank fees, 1,750. Ordinance enforcement, 200. Professional contracted services, 1,000. Elections, 100. Travel, 100. Council employment, training, 193. Maintenance, repairs, supplies, 1,000. City lodging tax, 250. State lodging tax, 100. Legal fees, $583. Nothing in the not allocated.
That means everything you done is spoken.
Yep. And you can see it's a big difference from last year.
Right, well, you said you broke it down into different funds.
Well, separating the park too, but then it still costs money to pay, maintenance to mow the park. And if you'll see as we go through that how much it's costing to clean the bathrooms. I mean, it costs a lot of money to clean the bathrooms and that you don't get nearly the amount of donations or revenue to cover that. So resources, utilities, water fund, cash on hand, 104,556. I suggested transferring in from the reserve 15,000 for the purposes of the spring work. That's it sounds like it's going to be pretty costly to get these fencing stays, and between 250, 450. And whatever supplies and gas and it costs to get up there, and water revenue charges for service 52,000, the SIP grant 20,000, search 30,000, transfer from water reserve fund for the negative balance for 22. We had a negative balance 27,034, so they already transferred it to equal 248,590.
There's certain sit down and you get those efforts on one or the other. Yeah, yeah, it's 30. Adopted this year, you got 30, and for next year, you got 20, and then where it's slow.
Okay.
Is that 30 over 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, tip should be good.
Reallocated requirements for the water fund. 16,500 for clerk water master, 16,500 meter reading, 3,000. Maintenance 2, 4,900, employment taxes and expenses, 2,800. And again, I added more because of that extra work at the spring. And because Terrell's going to be doing the mapping of the water line, so that will take some resources. Bonds and insurance, 3,000, office, 2,900, electric power, 1,500, audit budget, bank fees, 1,900, professional services, 900, maintenance, repair, supplies, 1,500, water testing, 1,500, the SIP and search, 50,000, travel, 1,000, spring work, 7,100 in supplies, and tools, 1,500. Structural repairs, 1,000 to equal 117,500. Operating contingency, 1,000 or $104,056 with an unappropriated ending fund balance of $27,034 to equal $248,590. Water reserve. Utility, 137,705. With a reserve for future expenditure of 95,671. 15,000 to the spring work in the water fund, and the negative balance in 22 to 27,034. And transportation, the Oregon State Street Fund. Available cash on hand, 180,398. And interest 600. FEMA with $1.243 million. Highway apportionment, 15,000. Small city allotment, 250,000. Storm charges, 960. that has not been approved, but it is something that may be looked at. Business Oregon FEMA matching 325,000 to equal to that 2,014,958. Allocated. The clerk, 8,160, maintenance, 2,000. Maintenance to 1,000. Cat Z administrative, 3,200. With an FTE of 0.5. Bonds and insurance, 2,885. Streetlights, 3,600. I suspect that there's going to be some switching out of lights this year, and I don't know what that's going to cost. There is legislation right now for dark sky at the state level. So that would, depending on your size or what kind of lighting that you have, businesses and streetlights would need to be replaced if that passes.
And just a heads up, if everybody wants to see the new streetlights, the hostel has one of the new ones that will be switched out. It is LED and it is very nice light.
But you have to have them, if it's dark sky, you have to have them shielded.
But that's just an example of what's going to be replaced from our.
You ever time on that? I heard that 5 years ago. That was the-
No, they just got these new lights in. So as our old ones go out, they'll come out and swap. Unless we're forced to.
Unless the legislative goes through, then you will have to change it. It has to be at a, I think it, what was it, 4,000? Less than 4,000 kilograms, something like that. Has to be a very low wattage. So what was that, street light? Professional services, 200. Office, 1,000. Audit budget, phone, bank fees, 4,000. Contracted services, 15,000. Maintenance, repairs and supplies, 2,000. Arborist, 5,000. Snowplow, 5,000. Training membership fees and travel, 5,000. Small city allotment, 250,000. FEMA, 1.243 million. ODOT, matching FEMA, DR 4452, 325,000. For $1,876,055. Not allocated. 4,800 for clerk and maintenance. Supplies for 3,000, contracted services for 2,000. Operating contingency of 86,400. If we're going to be doing our FEMA project this year, this is why I moved that operating contingency so that if we need those resources, they're available instead of reserving them for future expenditures. Unappropriated ending fund balance 37,903. Total requirements not allocated 138,903. Total requirements for all organizational units programs within the fund $1,876,055 with a total requirement of $2,014,900. Public safety and ambulance service. Really struggling on these here because we're not really getting any revenue for these funds. I'm getting $15 checks. So it's pretty lean right now. Yeah. So interest $76, previous levy taxes 4,100, charges for service 5,000, transferred in from other funds 5,000, with a total resources of $14,176. Bonds and insurance 2,530, maintenance repairs 1,000, office supplies 100, the building 100, ambulance association 2,100. Ambulance reserve 64, training 5,000, electric power and fuel for EMS 400. And the audit for financial review 2,882. And honestly, like we will spend probably more than what's there. I don't.
Probably not. Question, were the every department supposed to be here?
Budget committee?
Or any-
Mike did so play with something budget wise,
He said, just do what you did last year.
fire chief didn't respond to an invitation to prepare it.
Ambulance reserve, cash on hand, $3,753. The working capital, $64, $20 in interest, total resources, $3,837. And that is reserved for future expenditures. Fire Services Department, taxes, 4,100. Resources. Total resources, 4,100, bonds and insurance, 2,882. And the review for 1,218 for 4,100. They have no money to do anything. Public Safety Fire Service Reserve, $6,852. And that is reserved for future expenditure. Tourism, business enterprise, 18,236, lodging tax, 12,350, total resources, $30,586. Administrative, 2,500, legal fees, 1,000, publicity, 10,500, property improvement, 500, professional fees, 5,000. Transfer to the general fund, $3,705, reserved for future expenditure, $3,881, unallocated, $3,000, and office supplies, $500. For a total of $30,580. Public Safety American Rescue Plan is there for historical purposes. There is nothing this year. Community or enrichment, page 17, Community Development Fund, available cash on hand, $134,000. Community Development allocated. Maintenance, 3,000, maintenance to 1,500, employment taxes, 300, employment expenses, 100 with an FTE of 0.25. City truck, 15,000, facade grant, 1,200. Street improvement beautification, 1,000. 3,000 for City Hall Public Works Office. Council staff training, 5,000, travel related to training, 2,000. Community Hall structural, 15,100 with a total of 47,200. Not allocated for staff is 1,800, community hall structural 5,000, to the park department 75,000, to the general fund website development 5,000, with a total interfund transfer of 80,000. Requirements not allocated 86,800, total requirements for all organizations 47,200, total requirements 134,000. Cultural enrichment, heritage kiosk. I propose the same amount as last year. If that is unchanged. Which is 1,028 on hand. And 1,028 going out for 728 design and print and 300 for supplies and construction. 1,028 total requirement. Yeah, FTE hours. Based out of the dollar amount, these are the hours under the funds. You have the park 61 hours for the clerk, 221 for maintenance, and 35 for maintenance 2. Clerk 981 hours with maintenance 900 and maintenance 2 35. Street clerk 61, maintenance 221, maintenance 235, water. Clerk 970, maintenance 305, maintenance to 314, water master 295. Community development, clerk nothing, maintenance 176, maintenance 288. And that is the end of my presentation.
Questions?
I thought that was a nice presentation.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'm happy with just the things that we noticed to be fixed.
The minor changes, typos. We can approve it for. And then adopt it. We can approve
We
it.
can prove it here and then the budget
Changes to be.
with the changes, yeah. With the SIP and the search. It's with swapping the SIP and the search, yep. Those were the only changes that anybody noticed, correct? Oh, yeah, on the budget message, yeah.
Then saying, make sure to state, like the total of the budget and one of the, like, the opening things. I remember.
Oh, right, yeah,
One total.
yeah. Yeah, when we approve it in council, it will be for one total amount.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep, and then the resolutions will state the general fund for this much and this much and this much with a total of this much.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
You don't need to allocate the stuff that aren't really approved yet in the budget. You know, it's not gonna. I know some of these things, you know, it's not now allocated, not approved yet.
So
Some of these little line items.
right
so
there,
what is-
how does that work? So let's say that let's say you plan on getting a small city allotment grant and you don't get it. There's nothing you can do about it, you know, but you have to reasonably foresee. So for example, if it's community development funds, let's say maybe, you know, you only approve 70,000 for council. Or maybe you go over it, all of those things can be adjusted by resolutions. If it goes over your 10%, then you do your supplemental budget, which we will be doing for 22. In supplemental budget. So like, if it's the office thing, you know, for Terrell, maybe that's a great idea, but maybe somebody else has a different idea, like something along that line, but then maybe not quite the same amount of money. When they do the review, then they will tell you, you know, where you fell in that. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but just because it's suggested here, it's what is in the foreseeable future. Like you relatively have an idea that's not, because if you know that something's coming, you can't just put, you know, like the community development, it came right at the end of the fiscal year. And so we just had to put something on paper that we knew we were getting it.
Yeah, like the organic street fund, stormwater charge, that's something that hasn't been approved, so
Right,
it just doesn't happen if it's not approved.
right.
Just like, you know, past what, 3 years, we budgeted for the FEMA project to be done.
Yeah.
And it's on there and
Well,
Yes.
and in light of revenue, like, so I keep restating the same thing. You guys have to do something about revenue. So stormwater is like one of those maintenance things that you don't get a return on, you know, and a lot of people are implementing storm charges, and I figured it at $1 a customer, water customer, you know, $1 a month. So if $1 a month helps clean out the drains to keep a flood from happening and, from like what happened, because right now it's not, they're not even working. Because they weren't being maintained. And so, if that money covers for maintenance to go, clear out the culverts and, then I think that's a pretty good way to spend $1 a month to prevent floods, so. It's just,
No. I'm so worried about the fact that the dirt on the side of this ditch coming down, how the hydrants, the dirt up to the road.
Yeah.
You got the road. And then you got the ditch, don't have anything between. I'm so worried about that, that's a fire.
right here on that, past the cattle guard, that first turn, is that what you're talking about?
Most of it's the first turn. From the, bottom of the grade, going up, there's 5 spots with the dirt in the road. There's barely any dirt next to the road.
Oh, you're saying it's gonna drop off.
So the asphalt's gonna crack and go into.
It's on the south side of the road as you go up.
Yeah.
So basically, if we get a piece of equipment, Carol can dig a ditch to let the water run down
I
the
see.
side of the road.
Well, no.
But then we gotta worry
on
about
the ditch side.
Right.
Okay,
on the hillside.
no, not on the hill. Well, we have a problem there too, that's a small problem. On the side where the trees are and the ditch is deep. The soil's eroding away from the road.
So it is
Oh,
eroding
okay.
underneath the road.
It's gotta go underneath the road.
Got it. So we.
Cause the water runs down,
Taking the dirt away,
it takes a little bit every time.
yeah.
And
Make up there by Waterman Road.
I think storm charges are, just kind of like and I think the city has just been focused on like, we can only charge for water, but we really can expand that, just get people used to $1.
So give it a month at least. Instead of turning out, it'll be 40.
Well, $1 a month, anyway.
No, that'd be a really good thing.
Well, at least it would take the burden off of the city. Because. Like Chris said, we're struggling, as you can tell by the budget, we're struggling for money.
Just a general question, not related to the budget per se. So how much of the Oregon State Street Fund can we put towards the road repair?
It depends on where it is, because that we've kind of held off from using any of that because we didn't have anything matching for FEMA. And well, we had a ODOT emergency payment that we have been, but that's included in that street fund. So you're holding about 125,000 from the ODOT money.
So 125,000, that's the
Oh.
180 we have right now.
Yeah. So I've tried to stay away from, like, I didn't pay myself out of street fund or anything last year. But it's really the only fund that has anything workable in it. And I mean, I don't know what, I can adjust it if you would like, but there isn't any revenue. So yes, you can use it, but you can't use up the 125.
So,
Which is a bulk of.
Which is the bulk of it. But the good thing is that you're earning interest on it. You're making really good interest on what is in LGIP. So with altogether, you're making probably about $500 a month on what is sitting in there. So, it's-
6,000 a year.
Yeah.
Just keep it there, never do nothing.
yeah,
yeah, also on that page, which is 8, there's also the allotment in 2023 to 53.
wait, what's
Page 8,
page?
line 13.
13, yeah, what about it?
Is it 2023 to 2023?
2023, 2024, okay,
Must be 24, last figure.
24, yeah. It's actually you apply for it beginning this fiscal year, but you can't use it until 24.
Page one.
Yeah, thank you.
Make a motion to- Like to make a motion that we accept the first budget committee. Excuse me. So. Like to make a motion that we accept the approved budget as presented with the noted fixes of the clerical errors,
Fiscal year.
fiscal year 2023-2024.
And
I'd like the second vote, please.
motion made by Kenneth, seconded by Patty to adopt the budget as presented with the typographical errors corrected for year 2023 to 24. Open for discussion. No discussion, the committee votes.
Yep. Everybody
Ron,
votes.
how would you vote? Patty or Counselor Berger. Counselor Ferguson.
Aye.
Counselor Cook.
Aye.
Motion to approve our budget. It's passed. 3 counselors present, 2 committee members present. And I believe our meeting can be adjourned, right? Oh, do we need a motion to adjourn the meeting for this?
I would just be safe.
I'd like to
Oh,
make a motion
Counselor Berger.
To close our meeting.
Do we need to close it or?
Yep, you're done.
So we don't need to adjourn, okay. Sorry, go ahead, Councilor Berger.
Thank you, sir. Close the budget meeting, City of Mitchell, 2024.
Councilor Ferguson.
Okay.
Motion made by Councilor Berger, seconded by Councilor Ferguson to adjourn our meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, council. Thank you, budget committee.
If you would